Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer 2 online action. Today we're back with the Tomb Kings, going to be fighting Bretonnia. I wanted to take my Dakka Khalida idea and try and implement it in a 1v1, see how it would work. The idea here is that you use Khalida with her Blessing of Asaf ability. We take a look at that here. Just a reminder once again, plus 15 reload skill, 15% missile damage, and armor piercing missile damage. She's going to be providing that to everyone in this pocket. So both these Bone Giants and these Ushabti Great Bows are going to be benefiting from that. Bone Giants being an anti-large missile, and Ushabti Great Bows, while they aren't technically anti-large, do better against large targets. At least these ones that don't have the scatter shot like the Regiment of Renown. They're going to do very well against cavalry, so you can see massive buffs to their missile damage and reload skill. Obviously combining is going to make them very powerful. We've also got some skeleton spears up front, a couple of skeleton warriors, and the Scorpion Legion, the Regiment of Renown, in the back here. I've also got a light Lich Priest who I've forgotten in the back during my deployment phase. Yeah, we've also got the Regiment of Renown Sepulchral Stalkers. It's a relatively interesting unit. Against some of the heavy cavalry factions, I think it might be worth looking at. I haven't really used them too much, here and there occasionally, but you know, as kind of a bodyguard unit for Khalida here, I figured they would be somewhat appropriate. They have this interesting missile attack here, which, I mean, obviously Khalida does buff. It does 0 base missile damage, but 14 AP, and shoots a number of projectiles. It's an interesting ability. I haven't had it always work real well, but it seems to do well against large armor targets. Also does magic damage, so again, might be good against the Grail Knights. And the main thing, though, is that they have the armor-piercing anti-large in melee, and they also have charge defense against large, so they can stand and take a charge from something like a Grail Knight, which not many can. Speaking of Grail Knights, my opponent does have a couple. We've got one unit of Grail Knights and some Questing Knights here. The mirror over on this flank. Front line for Bretonnia is Spearmen at Arms with shields. We've got a Damsel, Lore of Life, Foot Squires, one unit. We've also got a Grail Relic and a Paladin, kind of walking in step with each other here, somewhat. I guess the Paladin's just here to provide some additional leadership buffs and kind of give an AoE splash attack in melee. I'm honestly not the biggest fan of the Paladin or the Empire Captain. I'll talk about why later on, but King Lewin Leon Kerr is going to be leading the Bretonnian force. And yeah, we're going to right away just start popping off the most unchivalrous type of missile weapon attacks, as I'm sure you Bretonnian fans will no doubt let me know. This is most unchivalrous. But rest assured, I've got some Bretonnia games coming up for you guys where I have had some fun with them. So yeah, this build, though, I think is pretty viable against Bretonnia because a lot of the tools that they bring to deal with your constructs are cavalry, and so it just makes sense that the Bone Giant, if you can protect the Bone Giant, you know, maybe with some elite units in the center like I have here, or, you know, maybe just more infantry, depending on the certain situation, but against elite cavalry factions in general, and especially Bretonnia, because they don't really have a lot of counter-missile play, it can be very powerful. You can see these Grail Knights charging in here. These Ushabti Great Bows are going to get tangled up in combat a little bit here, which is a mistake on my part, but these Grail Knights have taken so much damage at this point that it really doesn't matter that much. My Lich Priest, Lore of Light, is obviously still forgotten and is going to get caught here. I don't notice until he's actually dying. I'm like, oh, what's hitting him? Oh, he's way back there. No, that's okay. We'll use this to our advantage, try and shoot into this blob of cavalry, and see if we can't get some better results from our missile units there. You can see we are picking off a few of those Questing Knights here. Oh man, those Bone Giant shots just come in and do a massive amount of damage. So the cavalry for Bretonnia definitely suffering at this point, and obviously that is where they're going to be winning. The mainline pit fight is just skeletons slugging it out with peasants, so I don't think we really need to see too much of this. It's yeah, it's pretty much what it's always been. But anyway, Lewin charging down, trying to get on one of these Bone Giants. I mean, obviously he does AP in melee. The issue is that Khalida's right here, and Khalida's just going to charge in the side, pop her Tomb Strike ability, all the goods, and she's up to 91 melee attack with quite a bit of armor-piercing weapon strength as well. And with the support of the Bone Giant here, and then we're also going to get the Scorpion Legion to kind of, ooh, it looks like they're actually going to break the counter charge of this Questing Knights. And then we were going to get some more Spearmen to trap them from behind. So Lewin taking a lot of damage here from the Bone Giant and from Khalida. Of course, Khalida providing that necessary My Will Be Done, because the Bone Giants generally have terrible melee stats. But yeah, that My Will Be Done does make them a bit better. Good enough to actually rout off Lewin here. We got a nice side shot into these questing knights who are pinned in between the spears, so a really rough situation for Bretonnia. We got this unit of Sepulchral Stalkers, the Eyes of the Desert, got a hold of those Grail Knights and chased them off, so at this point it's just a matter of wearing away the peasants and finishing off Lewin. And yeah, Khalida kind of doing her part to help try and resecure these Bone Giants. Lewin's going to be coming back in. His leadership has regrouped, but once we're able to secure the Bone Giants and the Shopty Great Bows and focus fire a little bit, he should be going down. I'm not sure, did he actually bring the Lion's Shield? Because the Lion's Shield, obviously, for Lewin himself, would help mitigate some of this. It does give missile resistance and magic resistance, and I believe, yes, both the Bone Giants, who Shopty Great Bows don't, but the Bone Giants do magic damage with their ranged attacks, so obviously they're going to circumvent the physical resistance, but if Lewin has that Lion Shield up like he does right now, that's going to be mitigating almost all of the damage from those shots from the Bone Giants, so you definitely want to be focusing on the Grail Knights rather than Lewin. I think Lewin's actually a pretty decent pick in this matchup, but Khalida is definitely going to get the best of him here. You can see her chasing him off with her angry snake staff going crazy. And Khalida's a decent duelist. She's not a powerhouse by any means, but you know, in the right situation with a good side charge like that with some support, she can definitely take some of the higher tier lords and heroes to task. So yeah, definitely don't sleep on Khalida. And I do definitely like this missile build, particularly against Bretonnia, because like I said, they don't have a lot of counterplay. They don't have any anti-large type artillery. So against someone like, say, the Empire or the High Elves, who also tend to bring some elite cavalry, you probably wouldn't want to go with a build like this, just because it's going to be harder to protect the Bone Giants. I mean, I haven't really tested it, but I'd imagine that, I mean, because the Bone Giants are so much more expensive, if you brought, like, say, 4 Eagle Claw Bolt Throwers, you could be able to out-skirmish 2 Bone Giants or 1 Bone Giant. I'm not sure. I'd need to do some testing, but yeah, it's worth looking at, I think, definitely, for this matchup in particular. Khalida herself, only 23 kills, but did help take down Lewin there. Both the Bone Giants performing very well, 57 and 40. Most of those coming against elite cavalry. Keep in mind, Grail Knights, so XP chevrons to go around. Both the Shopty Great Bows also picked up an XP chevron from shooting at elite cavalry, so that's really good stuff for my opponent. I mean, it was just a rough situation to begin with, and I'll need to do some theory crafting with Bretonnia to see how you might beat a list like this. Maybe you just go really infantry heavy and try and like buff up halberd men-at-arms or something. I don't know. I'll need to do some playing around with it and see. Maybe you just don't go super cav heavy against the Tomb Kings. It seems kind of counterintuitive, but it's definitely a powerful build, and yeah, I mean, we'll see kind of how things play out. I haven't played this matchup too much since Bretonnia got their Regiments of Renown, but it's one that's definitely interesting. I did want to show you guys one more here, if I can find it. Yes, here it is. So this is a build where, a game rather, where somebody tried to take a similar build against me. It's not exactly the same. It's relatively similar, so I wanted to talk about this matchup as well, and kind of, you know, how it might play into some different matchups, because this, I think, can inform us a little bit on the Empire matchup and some other things. So, yeah. Just quickly, this is going to be a relatively short battle, but we've got Teclis with Nets of Amantok, Enfeebling Foe, and Regrowth. He's also got the Potion of Troy, of course. And because we're fighting the Tomb Kings, I normally drop Kindle Flame, but I decided to bring it this time because we've also got the Fireborn on the field, so they're going to get a little bit of a damage boost every time Teclis casts a spell. So that's always nice. We've also got the Everqueen's Court Guards and a single Handmaiden to support them. So they're going to be also doing fire damage. So again, anytime Teclis casts a spell, like let's say Net of Amantok, then these Handmaidens and the Everqueen's Court Guards will get a damage buff. You can bring Flaming Sword of Ruin proper on Teclis, but I figured since I had enough fire damage in my army already, I didn't necessarily need it. The Handmaiden is also providing some of her support buffs to this Eagle Claw Bolt Thrower. She's got this Quicksilver Shot, and there's another one that she can take. I didn't quite have the money for it this time, but front line of Spearmen, we've got Dragon Princess here, Fireborn over here, more Bolt Throwers out to the side, And yeah, for my opponent's army, he's got Khalida, only one Bone Giant, which I think is the main difference here. 2 Shabti Great Bows, 2 Tomb Guards with Halberds, King Nikesh's Scorpion Legion, 2 Tomb Guards up front, another Skeleton Spearman, and Necropolis Knights with Halberds. Similar to the Sepulchral Stalkers, but a little bit of a different unit. I'll need to compare their stats one to one to see exactly what the difference is. Obviously, these guys don't have the charge defense or missile attack. I think they might just have better stats overall. I'll need to check, but yeah, you can see the skirmish is going actually pretty well for the Tomb Kings. He's been able to shatter, rather destroy one of the actual artillery pieces, so that's pretty good. If he were to sit back and just kind of skirmish, he could probably end up doing a lot of damage here with the Ushabti Great Bows and the Bone Giant providing counterfire. You might be able to counter skirmish. But I mean, obviously, I want to create some separation from my artillery. Whoops, sorry about my phone there, guys. I want to create some separation from my artillery, and he probably wants to create some separation as well for his. So we're both going to move forward, but he's going to move forward Khalida a little bit too much, and she's going to be in a very dangerous situation because she's weak to fire damage, as all Tomb King's characters are, except for maybe what's his name, Grandpa Kotep. But yeah, we're gonna hit him with the net. Obviously, he gets that. She gets that Kindle Flame rather, and then the Ever Queen's Court Guards and that Handmaiden are just gonna unload their armor-piercing flaming missiles into her, and she is gonna disappear. And this was already a matchup that could potentially be rough for the Tomb Kings because Star Dragons viewing your lord was a very real problem. Now, though, you can goon an entirely different way. You can use armor-piercing flaming missiles and a net. Just wonderful. We got the Fireborn backing around, got in on these Ushabti Great Bows. Going to be shutting them down. Yeah, next just focus firing on this Lich Priest here. My opponent, at this point, I mean, the balance of power is not that far against him, but we got the Fireborn back in here dealing with these Necropolis Knights with Halberds. The other unit of Dragon Prince is going to rear charge here just to try and finish these guys off a little bit faster. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, there's not really a lot of hope left for the Tomb Kings. So my opponent does admit defeat there. And, yeah, I mean, he played it a little bit differently. Like I said, the build's a little bit different. I have the 2 Bone Giants and the 2 Shabti Great Bows. And you guys saw they were even able to almost out-skirmish the one. So I'm wondering if it wouldn't have been more beneficial for him to stay back. Because when Khalida moved forward with the rest of the army, she was no longer providing that buff to the Bone Giant in particular, which is the most important one. But yeah. I mean, in a counter-artillery situation, I was actually surprised. The Bone Giant did relatively well there, and if my opponent had just sat back and used his Ushabti and the Bone Giant to counter-skirmish my artillery and just destroy it to force me to advance and not have that extra missile pressure, that would have been very beneficial to him. Although, you know, whether or not you want to use up all your ammo on a 700-point artillery unit when there's a 1900-point unit of Dragon Princes on the field, you know, it's a bit of give and take there. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Have any of you guys tried this build out on ladder or similar builds, and what has been your experience? Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button so every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.